Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Pause the video right now to check out my social media, my radio show, and thatdrummerguy.com. And most of all, enjoy the following presentation.
Hello, is this Josh?
Yes, it is.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Excellent, thanks.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview.
My pleasure. Thank you for support.
Oh, absolutely. This is an interview I've wanted to do for a very long time, and I think there's no better timing to be able to do an interview than to talk about this brand new album.
Well, that's why we're here.
Oh, awesome. Well, before we get into the real nitty-gritty of everything, how did this new album come to be?
I think you need to be a bit more specific, Josh.
Oh, sure thing.
It wasn't just like, oh, well, me and Tracy hadn't seen each other for 15 years. We're in a room. Let's make an album together, and out it comes. It was a slow process. It was a process that took place over a 2-year period. I'll address the reunion. I hadn't seen Tracy in 15 years, and he was invited to do an charity event in Vegas called Toys for Tots, raising money for kids at Christmas time. Bring a toy or donate, to the toy fund. The organizer of the event called me and said Tracy had volunteered to do it, and would I be interested in getting up and doing a few songs with him, worthy cause and all of that. So I said, sure, why not? And it went pretty well, actually. We didn't rehearse, and we didn't even do a sound check. I just showed up a little bit before set time, and we hung out, and it was nice. It was a good vibe, and it felt good on stage. And I had a couple of solo acoustic shows later down the line after the following week. I asked him if he wanted to be interested in getting up and just jamming along, just playing some acoustic guitar with me, and he was up for that. So I went over to his house to work on these acoustic songs, and that's when he started showing me his sketches, his ideas for a new record that he had in mind. And it wasn't even a reunion. And even the word reunion hadn't even come up at that point. It was like he had a record deal with Frontiers, and I think originally he was going to get a bunch of different singers. But once I heard what he had in mind, I wasn't going to let anybody else sing on that stuff.
That's just so great to hear. I mean, it was for a great cause that you guys were able to get back together, and I'm glad to see that you guys have been able to get things going like this. I mean, the fact that you guys were able to get together for a great charity event all the way to now being able to release an album coming out this Friday.
That's right, Josh, and that's that saying, when you do things for the right reasons, good things will come of it, and everything has been for the right reason. I handed in my notice with the Riley version of LA Guns in October 2014. Is that 15? I'm not sure. I wasn't planning on. We made an album 5 years prior. We made a great record, Hollywood Forever. And Steve wasn't very keen on making another record, and it kind of disillusioned me a little bit in that lineup. So I given him my notice, and my intention was just to put a solo band together, or even just go out and play solo acoustic shows. But this thing with Tracy overlapped really well. But at no point, did we ever sit down and put our evil heads together and say, let's do a cynical reunion. It was never like that.
Yeah, and that totally would have been for the wrong reasons as well, if it would have been with
Yeah.
that in mind.
Yeah, no. There was none of that. I mean, it hasn't hurt that Slash and Axl have got back together. Let's put it that way. But it is by no means the blueprint. It wasn't what we were planning. I mean, for a start, it was. It really wasn't about live shows. It was about recording an album, which was a lot more interesting than playing live shows. To be honest, doing something new as opposed to redoing something we did years ago. So that was for the right reason too.
Yeah, and I respect that so much. I mean, especially for the reason you just said about making new material. I mean, it's one thing to always get back together through good and bad times and being able to play the classics, but when you are able to get back together and write inspired music, I mean, when everyone is contributing and collaborating together and making amazing music like you guys have done with the Missing Piece, I mean, it's great to see that you guys are all in the right mindset to make some amazing music that's coming out in 2017.
Well, thank you very much. We're very proud of it, and it's been a labor of love that all of us have been involved in. It's not just a Lewis Guns composition. Everybody's involved. Michael Grant brought songs in. Shane, the drummer, wrote lyrics. Johnny brought songs in. It was a lot of fun, and playing with these guys. We were never short of ideas. There was always something else we could do on the song, and we were doing it, and it just sounded great. Even bare bones, like in a rehearsal room, it sounded great. But once we started to lay it down and start adding embellishments, it really took on a character, a life of its own.
And with that, I mean, with what you just said, do you remember like a particular song or a particular riff or anything where you started to really notice that things were taking off in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, I love Speed. The first time he played me Speed, I thought, oh my God, this is so much fun. We can have so much fun with this. And then, the songs like Bleach and Fever that were, immediate. I could sing them, and they were like, this is going to go down great live. These are going to be amazing rock anthems. And then he'd go off on these amazing Randy Rhoads-esque musical interludes, and I was very compelled by where he was going with that. And there are examples, like The Missing Piece gave it all away. I'm singing in a style that I don't recall that I've ever sung in a sort of a Dio-esque sort of metal voice. I've always been sort of a sleazy rocker, Rod Stewart, Steve Marriott, but on a couple of moments, several moments on this new record, I'm in uncharted waters, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah, and I'm just going to bring that up too. I mean, especially with the examples that you listed, it does have more of that heavy metal aspect to it, and it's really cool to see that. I mean, it would have been so easy to just do by the numbers kind of songwriting, but you went into those uncharted territories for your style, and not only is that appreciated, you pulled it off amazingly well.
Oh, thank you very much. I was. I recorded my vocals in New York with Mitch Davis, a very good friend of Tracy's. Pretty much, I give him credit as being, as far as I'm concerned, the producer. He produced the vocal aspect of this record, and I really, really can't praise him enough. And I really enjoyed flying to New York. I did it over the space of 2 weekends. I did all the vocals in 4 days, and that seems like an incredibly short amount of time. But Mitch and I, we really knuckled down and we worked hard, and we're both really delighted with the way it turned out. And when Tracy was would hear it at the end of the day. Mitch would send him some of the files, some of the rough mixes, and Tracy was like right away. It was like, oh my God, this is amazing. You guys carry on. This is really the missing piece, and that was a phrase that came up a lot during the recording of the record. And it was pretty obvious that was going to be the title.
Yeah, and I was going to say that too. I mean, it feels like such a perfect title. I mean, for everything that's been going on with everybody in the band. I mean, and also knowing that little backstory there. I mean, having a title like The Missing Piece just fits so perfectly.
It certainly does, and I'm going to give Tracy full credit for producing this record, and it's his baby, and he came up with the idea. He's just been it's been so refreshing. He's a different person than the person that I parted company with 15 years ago. He's really got his shit together. He's a dad now. He just seems, a much better person than he was back then for whatever reasons. I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's under that much pressure. Back then, he was under a lot of pressure. I felt like, he's always been this kind of guy. Well, I'm 20 now. I need to be in a certain place, or I'm 30 now. I need to be, and he was like that. And he I don't sense that anymore. He's just like, this is it. This is the place I'm at. This is the music I want to make, and a real pleasure to be around.
Yeah, and again, that just makes me so happy to hear. I mean, I think as long as a person lives long enough, I think they do eventually hit that age. I mean, sometimes it's at a very young age. Sometimes it happens near middle age or in an older person's life. Just like hitting that moment where you realize that all these things that you thought meant so much to you younger do not mean as much, and the moments that you had together is what really matters.
He became a dad. He's an exceptional father. He really enjoys being a father, and it's affected the way he deals in life, and affected the way he runs a band, and it just seems to have a lot more empathy than I ever remember.
And with that, I mean, with you noticing this change with Tracy, do you notice any change with yourself since the last time that you two worked together? I mean, back 15 years ago? We split up acrimoniously 15 years ago, and we both went in separate directions. I carried on with LA Guns with Steve Riley, and Tracy went off and did his other thing. But unfortunately, after a while, there were two versions of the same band out touring. My version was Steve Riley, Kenny Queens, and Michael Grant. We were doing okay. We were making new music. We were going in the studio every few years and recording an album. Tracy's version wasn't so much into that. They were just out playing shows. And I really do consider that to be the lowest point in the band's career. And it's funny now, but we have the dubious honor of there are 47 people out there that claim to be at one point a member of LA Guns. But as I said, none of that matters. We've cleaned up our history. Our legacy has remained intact. And me and Tracy are the nucleus of LA Guns. We always will be. I thought the records that I did without him were LA Guns records, but they really weren't. They were solo records. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm real proud of them, but it was not LA Guns. It does not have that X factor, that magic that Tracy and I have when we work together. Yeah, and I wanted to ask about that too. I mean, when it came into the songwriting for the new album, did anything change from the glory days back then when you first were writing together? I mean, how have your styles changed with the new album?
Well, he's matured. He's always been a brilliant guitar player, but he's matured so much as a composer over the years, and I'd like to think that I have too. And he was very inspiring for me to take on new challenges vocally, perhaps doing styles that I wasn't quite so used to. He was like, do it, go for it. Let's see what it sounds like. Go out there and just be full on metal. And it worked. I enjoyed it, and it's right for that specific type of music, that particular song.
Yeah, and like mentioned before, I mean, with it being such a uncharted territory for your voice, I mean, again, I can't say it enough. I mean, I really appreciate the fact that you decided to channel that kind of style, and I think it worked off amazingly well, because if you would have done that in a different style, I don't think the songs would have had such the impact as they do.
I've done a lot of session work. I've done a lot of covers. I've been on a lot of tribute records, singing material that was a little bit outside my comfort zone. So I had some practice, and I brought what I learned from doing those sessions into this album. So it wasn't completely new. It was just something that I wasn't used to doing in LA Guns in the context of LA Guns.
And speaking of that, I mean, with this being such a fresh new chapter with the band, what has been the reception to the album that you've seen so far? It's
been pretty amazing. My advice is this is a record. It's a piece. It's a musical piece, and I suggest, at least for the first few times, the listener plays it, to try and play it from top to bottom in context with each song. The running order really is important. And that way you really get to enjoy the full spectrum of the styles, the playing styles, and the styles of composition styles, and you'll be rewarded with flashes of just like sonic take, like the strings in the latter part of the record. They're real strings. They're not keyboards. They were recorded in France. It was a birthday present. It was a birthday gift from an amazing. I can't recall the guy's name. He's a French composer, and he does music for movies. And he loved the record, and he just sent us back these files with this lush string arrangements that fit absolutely perfectly. So I really do feel, for the first few times you listen to it, need to be listened in context with everything else for full enjoyment. I'm a vinyl freak. I listen. 90% of what I listen to at home is LPs, and I got the double gatefold. And I get the same chills that, I love Quadrophenia, I love The Who, and that's also a double gatefold record, a little bit like Physical Graffiti. I'm getting that vibe when I put on The Missing Piece, and I fucking love it.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, I've always been an album guy myself. I mean, singles are a great representation of what an album could be, whether it's like for the catchiest moments or what sometimes the band feel is the best.
Yeah,
songs.
Sure. But CDs or files or downloads or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just you really get the full benefit if you actually sit down. If you don't have the LP, that's fine. But listen to the whole CD in context, and I think you really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, with It's All the Same to Me all the way through to Gave It All Away. I mean, there's so many great peaks and valleys that are going on there. The more heavier moments, the more melodic, mellow moments. The string sections, like you mentioned, are such a great highlight of the album. I mean, there's something for everybody on this album.
I think so, yeah. We've got the 3-minute rockers, and then we got these, like the Missing Piece gave it all the way. It's like 10-minute opus at the end of the record, and it all works. It all works in context with each other.
So, with that said, and the album coming out on Friday, what's next for the band?
Well, we're going to Japan on Thursday. We got invited last minute to go over and play the biggest rock festival in Tokyo. It's called Loud Park. We're going over. We're playing with Slayer and Alice Cooper. And 3 weeks ago, that wasn't on our radar. It just came out of nowhere. A lot of amazing things happening. People have picked up on the band and picked up on the record, and we've been invited to do some pretty amazing shows, and lots of touring. The record was supposed to come out in June, and we had a whole American tour to support that. Well, the record didn't come out, but the tour still went ahead. So we've been working our asses off on a club and theater level. So we've had like a little bit of we've had like a little 3-week break before we start in the fall campaign, which starts with Japan. We come back, we do an East Coast run. We got to go over to UK, Italy. We're going to play some shows in Germany, and get back for the holidays. And we got 2 nights at Vamped in Las Vegas, and then we got 2 nights at the Whiskey, playing our old horns, playing places we love to play, but 2 nights consecutively, because the demand's there, and we sell out one night almost immediately. So they've started doing this 2-night thing, which I really enjoy a lot, because it gives us a chance to play different songs in the set, mix things up. I think eventually we will play every song on the new record. I don't know if we're ever going to play the whole thing in its entirety, but I think that we will be adding songs and mixing them into our live set. So far we've done 3 now, and they're going down pretty good, going down very well actually.
Yeah, and I was just about to ask about that too. And it's great to see that every song has the possibility of being able to be played live, because every song really feels like it could be such a great song to be able to hear live off the new album.
Sure, we've done Speed, and that's a no-brainer. People love that. We've done Flood. It's just the fault of the rain, which is a lot of fun for me. And I think we're gonna be getting into Sticky Fingers in the next few shows, which is going to be great as well.
Oh, that's great to hear too. I mean, with the great back catalog that LA Guns has had, I mean, being able to show off what the band is capable of doing now, just like picking out the right songs from the album to go with the set list, depending on the shows, and it's like when you do the double nights. I mean, that's great to see that you guys are going to be switching it up and playing different songs to go along with that. And it's great to see between the back catalog and what you guys are doing now that everything's getting some great representation.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.